What's up, you beautiful chuds, and welcome to the Let's Talk Horror Channel podcast, and welcome to the Creep Zone, where we have very honest, unrated, unfiltered conversations about something from the world of horror. On this episode, we're going back to sort of like the mid 2000s, and I'm super excited about it because this movie is a movie that genuinely I think gets better the more you watch it, even though you might have watched it a zillion times. And I have, and I'm sure my guest has as well. But we're gonna get like right into talking about this movie that we're gonna talk about is called The Descent. I'm pretty sure most people have probably seen this movie, which is great for the podcast because it might mean people might listen or watch it. But if you haven't, then of course bloody stop this, go and watch it, go and watch the bloody movie, then come back to this because we're gonna bloody spoil everything that happens in it. But I'm really looking forward to it because I do truly think that this is a fantastic movie, and there's a lot to unpack with this movie, and a lot to talk about, especially when it comes to the director, which of course we're gonna get into. It makes it sound like it was something like really like diabolical and seedy. There's nothing there. I don't mean like in that respect. I mean we get into it. But on this episode, talking all about The Descent, we have with me Leighton. Leighton, of course, is a returning guest to the show from the Surviving Horror podcast. Is that right? Yeah, that's right.
Perfect.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Why do I always think it's not that? I'm genuinely. What is the point in me doing this? I literally don't know what's going on all the time.
Perfect.
Exactly. Well, thank you for coming back on the show. I appreciate it. Of course, last time we spoke about another movie directed by Neil Marshall, which this movie is Dog Soldiers. Brilliant movie. Dog Soldiers. The Descent. Brilliant movie. Every other movie he makes is shit, right? I don't. I'm not the only one, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, thanks for having me back. I'm your resident Neil Marshall in-house expert, it would seem. But this is the end of the road, surely, as we've
I
done
know
Dog
that's
Soldiers
it.
and The Descent. That's the journey we've had.
I know that's it. This is like the shortest, like a companion piece to a director, like the shortest autobiography through a podcast ever. It's like Dog Soldiers, Descent. Don't worry about the rest. We don't need to do anymore. Which is a shame because, as I said, when we go through this, like it is going to be one of those, like once again, very often with Let's Talk Horror, it is really like talking about how much love we have for the movies, you know, rather than talking about shit about the movies. I can save that for Patreon, but we, but when it comes to like the podcast, really, it's like we pick the movies where there is like the different layers, so much to talk about, and on the technical journey as well as the movie itself and how the movie plays. And this is one of those movies, so it's wild to think that Neil Marshall didn't continue like evolving after this and making better and better movies. They just sort of got worse. Also, if Neil Marshall listens to this, I'm gonna get a bad message, and
We love you, Neil, if you're watching this.
we love you, Neil, for 2 movies. I don't give a fuck. But there we go. So, of course, yeah, we're talking about The Descent from 2005, directed by, of course, Neil Marshall. Don't hate us, but if you do, oh well. Starring, there's a load of people in this, so I'm not going to go through them all. We've got Shauna McDonald, Natalie Mendoza, Alex Reed. Oh, bloody, this is a tough one. Myrana, I don't know. My Sharona Burring, Saskia Mulder, not from the X-Files, and Nora Jane Noon. And I mean, there's loads of people in this. But once again, I think that that's one of the good things and the good written part about this movie as well, which we're going to get into. It's on IMDb at 7.2 out of 10 and 87% on Rotten Tomatoes. So still well received when it comes critically as well, which of course it deserves. Google synopsis wise, a group of friends set out on an expedition to a cave. Their adventure turns into a nightmare when they get trapped inside the cave and are pursued by bloodthirsty predators. Not the predators, but you know, they're gross creature monster looking things. Like they don't look as cool. I mean, they look pretty gnarly, but they don't look like cool predator. But they're fucked up.
They're scary, but they're not predator iconic, are they? the
No, no,
scary creepy
exactly.
things.
Yeah, like if I saw the Predator, even if I knew it was going to kill me, I'd be like, fine, it's fucking cool. If I saw this one, I'd be like, no, I don't want to get killed by that because it's all manky and its slimy little hands are going to go all over me. It's grubby little hands. I don't want that at all. But of course, I always like to ask my guests: when did you first see this movie? Was this one that you saw at cinema? Was this a VHS or DVD later on?
Yeah, it was the cinema. So we'd seen Dog Soldiers, and it was that sort of. For me, it's not watching loads of trailers where they tell you everything and you've seen all the scenes. There were teasers, and that was enough. And we kind of knew it was the Dog Soldiers guys. We're like, yeah, let's go for it. I don't need to know anything else. And we went along, really enjoyed it. And I remember really clearly one of the lads I went with, he said afterwards, I'm claustrophobic. And that first sort of hour, I was terrified. It was the worst thing I've ever seen on the big screen. Never mind when the monsters come afterwards. So yeah, I remember that really clearly, and just a great thing of going a little bit into the unknown. We didn't quite know what the story was. No one had spoiled anything, and you just get it, and you're like, "What a lovely experience in the movie."
Yeah, and I'm glad you said about the whole claustrophobia because I'm going to get into that as well when we go through this as well, or when we get to my thoughts and stuff as well, because that was absolutely an issue that I had as well. When it comes to my thing as well as the claustrophobia, I have a bit of a funny story when it comes to this. So when this came out. At this time, I was working at a cinema, and of course, I would obviously go and watch as many movies as I possibly could. And what I always have this reaction where, like, and as I've said on the show before, I do not get scared by movies, horror, anything like that. It never has happened, not as a kid, not as an adult. Fear factor or the fear element has never been part of what horror is. It's just, I just love horror and the creation process and what it is in the movies, and I just think they're the best fucking movies, simple as that. But I've always had this sort of like reaction where if something gnarly is happening, those things that would normally make people vomit make me laugh like an absolute madman. It's just like one of those reactions. I just feel like it's the funniest thing in the world, which is really sick, I know. But it just happens. And when I went and watched Descent, I also watched it at the cinema once again. Saw Dog Soldiers, thought it was fantastic. I thought, oh well, of course I'm going to watch this. And the trailer made it look great as well. And also as well, it's interesting as well because the trailer, of course, you know what? I'm going to get into that later as well because there is the underlying sort of like feeling of this movie or like the technical side of this movie doesn't feel as British as it should be, and I think that that's something that actually works in its favour. But I'll get into that as well. But I ended up sitting there watching this movie in the cinema, and there's the bit where she falls down the cave thing, lands on her leg, breaks her leg, and a bone comes out.
Oh gosh.
I was in stitches, like I had just watched the funniest movie I had ever seen. Like I could not stop laughing, and there's moments in the movie where it was like things like this keep on happening. Anyway, as I come out because I had watched it after I'd done a shift at work, I was told by the people that I work with, they were like, "Yeah, we nearly had we had a customer come out and complain about somebody laughing so loudly at the back." When all the horrible stuff was coming in, and they came in to tell the person off to tell them to shut up, but they realised it was me, and they were like, "Oh no, it's just Brett. We just leave him there just to get on with it, watching his comedy." But yeah, so so it was a funny experience for me, even though once again it shouldn't be a funny experience. But there is the claustrophobia side, which I'll get into as well. But yeah, it's one of those movies that definitely was a fantastic cinema experience. It is one of those movies that is made for the cinema. You know what I mean? Like it works so well for the cinema.
Yeah, dark room, so you're underground, and it's the lighting on the screen, which we'll get into. But watching it in a dark theater was just really great, much better than watching it on the TV at home. So yeah,
Yeah.
really good.
Absolutely, absolutely. So on the show, of course, you know that when it comes to the movie, talking about the movie, I basically do a complete run through of everything that happens in the movie. I go scene by scene. That way, the reason I like it is because it means we get to talk about those scenes that you love. We get to them and you're like, I wonder what they want to say about this. Do they like it? Do they think it's shit? Well, you'll know because we're going to talk all about it. So we're going to go through everything that happens in the movie. But we open the movie with some rapid water rafting, and some friends are having the absolute best time ever. We are then in the car for a drive home when we all of a sudden, blammo, a car crash. Which is where some pipes they fly through the windscreen and impales someone's husband right on his bonds. So straight away this movie gets into it. You realize like there's these, you've got these women, these are our main characters, or at least some of them at that point. You know that they're all up for fucking adventure, and it already looks like pretty gnarly, you know what I mean? And then straight away we're hit with like the husband's dead, gruesome, pipes through his face, already off to the races.
I remember that shock so much in the theatre. Like sometimes when you're in the cinema, and we always assume the Americans are whooping and cheering in the cinema. We're a little bit more constrained, or we're laughing at broken bones. But I
Yeah.
remember there was this like, everyone was like, oh my God, and like a real gasp, one of those real kind of shock moments. Because it's just the mum chatting with the daughter and like, let's go home, get you some cake or whatever. And suddenly like, boof, crash. And it was out of nowhere pretty much.
Yeah, my normal go-to is blimey, because it just like it's about as English as you can get. But like it always is one of those moments where like once again, very much throughout this movie, it does something that not every horror movie does, and that is be unpredictable. Like unpredictable is something that's so important for horror, because we watch so many movies that we're like, we know what's going to happen. And this movie, of course, once you've seen it, yeah, you know what's going to happen. But for the first time, for you to get hit with that straight away, you're like, fucking hell, it sets you up to go, okay, this is the sort of ride I'm in for with this movie. And it doesn't let up, and it just keeps on going. But then after that, Sarah, who is the wife of the man that died, she is our main lead of the movie. Pretty much, I would say she's like the proper main lead in the movie, isn't she?
Yeah.
She wakes up in hospital after the crash. She's confused to start with, but then she's absolutely distraught. She has this moment where she's running down the hallway, and the lights. It's a really cool shot where she's running down the hallway in hospital, and the lights are sort of going off behind her. Technically, it looks really cool cinematically, but then of course we realize that not only it was her husband that died in the crash, it was her daughter as well that died in the crash. So it's fucking heavy stuff, like straight away. Like as I said, there's no easing into this, like imagery wise and emotionally wise. There's no easing into this movie whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Not at all.
pretty insane.
They feel really normal people, and I'll happily chat on about that as we go as well. The girls all feel like a normal bunch of mates, and okay, there's some who've been mates for longer, and that's the friend of the friend. But through the movie, they're just normal people, and then so suddenly she's whacked, and her life is kind of totally thrown out the window. She lost her husband, lost her daughter, and we kind of watch these movies, don't we? We're like, oh, it's just a cool horror movie. But if you take that moment to step back, and you like that poor moment when she kind of collapses into her friend's arms, who's saying, I'm so sorry she's gone. Like that's more horrific than any horror we can ever watch, and we can't quite cope. And it's like, please get me to a scene with some monsters that's a bit more lighthearted. So a
Yeah.
really heavy start to a movie. Yeah.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, like it's like as I always say, and that's what's great about horror is that horror can be so many things. It doesn't have to be about ghosts, ghouls, goblins, guts, and gore. It can be about those hard, heavy hitting emotional moments that we go through, or people sadly have to go through in life, and that's at the start of the movie before we've got into the fucking goblin schmeagle people that we get later on. But of course, then we go straight to the title card, the descent. But Sarah is back on the road. Obviously, some time has passed. She's back on the road with a friend, and they head to a cabin in the woods where the rest of the gang are there. And obviously, they're going to have some good times with friends. There's some booze, some dodgy DJing, and there's definitely some good history here. Like you said as well, like the normalcy, like the friendship that they have, really like shows on the screen. And once again, that is such an advantage to the movie because, as I say all the time, there's so often now that I watch movies where I'm like, these people, I don't give a fuck about these people. Like, they don't seem like friends. There's no chemistry. There's nothing. I want to be with them, like getting absolutely jazzy jeffed, like just having fun with them. And that's such great act performance, such great writing, good directing, where you've got like these characters already you're happy to be on a journey with, even though you know that journey is already fucked up and will continue to get fucked up. it's still so much like, that's such a benefit to the movie that you like these people, like you were saying, they're
Yeah.
normal people and you like them. If you hated them, then you'd be like, hurry up and die.
Well, it's that sense that you've kind of got skin in the game through empathy. You care about them. You could imagine them being your friends if you're a similar age, or your partner or your girlfriend or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, you would happily hang out with them, have a beer, put your pink pajamas on, and take
Yeah.
the piss. But the thing I really like, I'm sure we'll get on to the fact that it's a all female cast. They're not all. It's not like Grease where they're all kind of pillow fighting
Yeah.
and like one dimensional girly nonsense. They're having a beer, having a laugh, taking the piss out of their mates. It feels really normal. They're not pretending to be blokey in that. They're just being normal people, and I think that's great. It gets us to like them even more.
Yeah, exactly. And you really do like them. There's not one in it that you don't like. Of course, there are the ones that you're like, that one's going to die first, that one's going to die next. Of course, but that's just horror. Like, if you know horror, if you watch horror, you know those sort of things. You know what characters are going to die first and so on, and who's going to be the main one and who's going to die first. But like you say, like you're happy to be on this journey with these characters, and that's such a credit to obviously the performances and the writing and everything that went into it. But as morning comes, and after of course being rudely awakened by Juno, who Juno is like the one that goes out for the run. She's the one that's got him there, so to speak. Like this is all her plan for a nice getaway, and it's also all of her fucking fault, which we'll get into. But then they have a cold shower and a gang photo, which of course is definitely the last gang photo that they ever get to have together before they head off to their destination in the middle of nowhere, and now with no map. Basically, they have a moment where they drive off, they go to where they're going. Juno, being the absolute mug that she is, decides to leave the map in the car. As a viewer, we know how much she's absolutely fucked them by doing that. But she's just an absolute muppet. Like, don't leave a map. That's like rule 101, isn't it? Of like when you do it.
Yeah, they've gone to a different cave, haven't they? So she's telling them we're all going to this cave. Here's the map, and I'm even going to ditch it. But actually, we're going to some cave that no one's ever been to. So even if you've read the book and remembered the map, tough, we're in a different place. So Juno is the one who's caused a lot of problems. I do love that selfie they take, and that is one of the images, isn't it? What are we like 20 years later, which is scary. But you could put that picture on your Instagram and the descent, that selfie group shot. It's a really recognizable shot. I love that.
Hang on a minute. Did you just say 20? Is this 20 years old?
2005. So it's new. It's new.
So it's new. So it's new. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's technically. I mean, in our brains, 2005 was 2 weeks ago for me. So, but yeah, so it feels like a new movie. But yeah, it's mad to think that this. It's so wild when you start thinking about some of the movies and like they just feel like yesterday, and it becomes 20 years, and you're like, Jesus Christ. And also, when you think about it in regards to a movie like this, that's a credit to the movie, because it goes to show, and of course, the more we go through it, you understand what we mean, how fucking well this movie is aged.
Yeah. It doesn't feel dated, does it? I mean, we don't spend much time above ground of cars and fashion and the lack of a mobile phone or old Nokia. It just feels genuine people. And so I think that helps the fact that it's not kind of its time. It could be set last year. You're underground, so you ain't got any signal, so forget your iPhone anyway. We don't need it.
Yeah, that's it. Like luckily there's no like IT nerd with a laptop that going down there, and it's not like a big giant laptop. There's no like real technology. All there is technology wise, one of them's got a video camera, but of course we'll talk about that when that comes into play in a big way as well. But they integrate that as well as they're going heading to their destination as well. They do come across an animal that's been killed, which also, when I was watching it, I was like, do you reckon that's like a Dog Soldiers thing? Maybe. Because, of course, in Dog Soldiers, we get like that, like as we spoke about it, some bloke chucks a giant fucking whatever it is, Highland cow or whatever.
Like Sam Raimi's car, it must be Neil Marshall's big dead cow thing that he likes to get in every movie.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's got to have a giant dead animal in it. But of course, it's one of those things where like they're like, it's the little hints that they're doing at those moments. Like they're talking, they're like, as they come across it, it's like a very quick scene, but they come across it and they're like, oh, I've never seen a big animal being killed like this. What do you think that is? And they're like, wolves. And you're like, oh yeah, of course it is. but anyway, so Sarah at one point anyway, she gets scared shitless by some bats. So basically, they end up getting to this big bloody hole in the ground. Visually looks great, all stunning. But I'm going to get into that when it comes to the overall thoughts anyway, rather than keep on talking about how fucking great this movie looks. I'll get into that anyway, because of course I will. But they end up finding this big hole. They all sort of like rappel down. Sarah, she gets scared shitless by bats. And now, obviously, of course, they head deeper. They journey further into this hole, this big bloody hole in the ground. Once they reach open ground, they see the scale of this place, and Sarah already hears something. And when she investigates it, Juno scares the absolute shit out of her. So basically, they're sort of setting up like a little bit of like, this is like Sarah sort of trying to return to a little bit of normalcy, obviously, after everything that's happened, with her husband and her daughter. She's a little bit jumpy, but of course, as the movie goes on, she gets back onto this badass woman bandwagon,
Yeah, there's that whole thread, really, isn't it? It isn't just a bunch of girls go caving and find monsters and fight them. There is so much, particularly with Sarah's journey of like processing grief, and the whole group actually, of how Sarah's grief has touched all of them, and it's probably changed dynamics and everything. So all that kind of hearing the daughter's voice or whatever she's hearing, and being quite jumpy, and she's probably still, she'd have PTSD, wouldn't she, from what's happened to her. And it's like back to from white water rafting to caving, as if like, has anything happened? Is this exposure therapy? There's definitely other stuff happening with that, isn't there, of processing those emotions?
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, like as we go through it, there's things that keep coming up, but then, the way that she changes her sort of transformation throughout the movie is absolutely insane, and we're getting to that. But Sarah, obviously, after this, she is off again to explore. She finds the next way through this cave. Video camera lady, which I keep forgetting her name, but I have got it written down here somewhere. But video camera lady for now. She's first through this basically really tight hole to get to the other side, and then the others follow suit. But Sarah is last to get to go through the tight space, and it's really getting to her. But then at that point, she gets stuck. She starts to hyperventilate. So this is, like I mentioned earlier. So I am actually claustrophobic, and I really struggle. This movie makes my heart go absolutely mental as we go through it. It's funny that the bits that are scariest for me are a lot. The things that get me the most are the moments where she's in this hole, absolutely like she's stuck, she's terrified, she's hyperventilating. I am literally doing the same thing that she's doing while I'm watching it. When it gets to all the blood, guts, and gore and the monsters and everything, I'm like, this is fucking cool. More of this. Anytime it's tight spaces, I literally wanted to pass out when I was watching this. I felt so sick watching it.
Do you
Which is
know,
a credit to the movie.
I've had such a good and different experience prepping for this, in that because life is busy, I ended up watching it in 2 sittings. And so I thought, I'm going to stop it before the monsters come. So I watched a kind of 40-50 minute movie about girls going caving, and that was really intense. And then the next evening when I watched it, it was pretty much 2 minutes and the monsters appear. So I've kind of chopped it into two to prep for this, and a really interesting, different experience of a scary caving movie full of claustrophobia, getting stuck, and horror. So,
Yeah, and you're exactly right as well, because this is like, it is almost two movies, isn't it? Like once you get to the moment when you start getting the creatures, the monsters, and those slimy bastards that they are, it is like the claustrophobia side of it, and like the fact that they're trapped, they've got to try and get out. Like that is, I mean, loads of movies have done that as the full synopsis for the movie, for the full run through of the movie, where they're just trapped. And it's just like, we got to go around this corner that ends up being the same corner as this one. Like, we've seen it all before in horror. So it's cool, like exactly like you're saying, you almost get like two movies out of this. You get the fact that they've gone hiking, they get trapped. You've got the claustrophobia aspect, especially for people like me who want to fucking die watching this movie at the start. And then you get the blood, guts, gore, monsters, everything as we get to sort of like, nearer the second half of the movie. So once again, it's just a very well put together, really well structured movie. But
and it's that clever storytelling, isn't it? Don't show your monster too soon. So we're nearly an hour, 55 minutes or an hour before anything happens. There's little kind of, what's
yeah,
that shadow in the background? And I guess a more modern film would be 5 minutes in going, oh, look, there's a monster and it's going to come and get you. And it's a bit, I like the pace that we hold that monster. And then we only have it for like 30 minutes at the end or something. But so much
Yeah.
building up tension and then have some monsters on top as well.
Yeah, and also what's fantastic about that, and like to what you're saying as well, is that another movie that if they are doing it like going down this route where they're not showing the monsters until like you saying like 55 an hour a minute hour into the movie, you have like that slow build up, until like them going to the caves and then they're going here and this thing or the odd little thing happens. Within the first 5 minutes, the husband's dead, the child's dead, we've got grief, we've got everything happening. They're doing all this exciting cave stuff. They get stuck in a cave. She's now stuck in a hole. It's like it's relentless. Like this movie, like doesn't really give up, and I think that's like a real good credit to like obviously Neil Marshall, this movie, and the one other good movie that he made, which is Dog Soldiers. Dog Soldiers is pretty much the same, where it's like pretty much like start the movie, go until the end, and this is the same for me. I think this is very much like it just doesn't miss a beat. It just keeps going and then almost reinvents itself and becomes a different movie as we go through it. So once again, it's a credit to Neil Marshall and everybody who did it. But yeah, so Sarah, of course, she's really struggling to get through this hole until the actual hole starts to collapse on them, and then you're like, oh fuck's sake. And I'm sitting there going, oh fucking hell, like I couldn't even eat my jelly snakes because I was too panicky. And so but obviously they do get out just in the nick of time. But with a way out now gone, so with this collapse and stuff like that, we find out obviously that that's a way, they can get out. And then Juno, because of course we know that she left the map in the car, she's absolutely fucked them. She didn't bring up the book for the directions to find another way out. And of course, at that point, it brings a bit more hostility into the group because at that point they sort of really know they're all fucked because like you mentioned earlier as well, like this is a new sort of cave system. Like this is something that hasn't really at that point we think hasn't been explored before. Juno thinks like it's like that she's found it, they're going to be the first people to do it, but she's just fucked them, isn't she? She's just absolutely mugged them over.
And I kind of like Juno, but she's probably the one character that I might like least. And it feels it's a bit all about her. Even processing Sarah's grief and, well, we're trying to fix it for you and make you feel better. I'm going to name a cave after you. And it's like, yeah, you've got us all killed, so thanks for that. But in terms of like our part of surviving movies, we always have that sense of listen to the clever character and they might help you. Because one of the Rebecca is the character, and she's like, this doesn't feel like the guidebook. It's because you're in a different cave, love. But if we'd listened to Rebecca, it might be turn around, climb up that rope, and we'll go again. And Juno will not get us all killed.
Yeah, Juno
listen to the
is
smart
one of those
lady.
people. Yeah, listen to the smart lady. Juno definitely feels like the person that's absolutely like in this for herself. Even though like she says that she's sort of like doing it for Sarah and there for Sarah, but if she was, like maybe she wouldn't leave the map in a car and try and help and ease her into it rather than going, here's a new system, by the way, I fucked us all. But yeah, it's interesting what you said about Juno being at least like character, and I think like that's a good thing because obviously it is, especially as we go into what happens further on in the movie, it's definitely written to be that way. But once again, like you mentioned earlier on, what I do love about it is that you cannot help but think of how much of a fucking badass she is. And that's what I do love about her. Like, there's no, like, when it comes to, like, the emotional side or the things that happen as we go through them, there's not really many redeeming qualities about her in that. But also, she is the type of person you want in a bar fight with you because she's fucking absolute badass. And I can't wait, when we get to those scenes, they're great scenes, like pretty much everything in the movie as well.
She's like,
but they move.
Tomb Raider, like Lara Croft vibe, isn't she? All like all action hero and swinging her pickaxe around and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's fucking badass, and I love the fact that all these women in their own way are literally all badass, and there's not really a weak link between them in regards to like all of them you're gonna have on your team in a fight. That's what's great in them about this. Like, and it's like what you said earlier, there's so many like movies where like, you know, it would have been a different movie, and the women in this movie would have been written to be something completely different. I love the fact that the normalcy of like real people comes across in this, and the fact that they're all fucking badasses. I love it. Like, we, you know, I speak about this, you know this as well, like, and I'm sure you're the same way. Like, there is nothing better than and horror is just the fucking best at this, but it just does everything it can to make movies, and so many movies, you know, in the past and so on, where you have strong female leads, strong female characters, and it's always been at the forefront of that. Horror has always been at the forefront of that, and I just love that so much as well, especially
Yeah.
growing up in an all-female household where they're like the fucking badasses and will beat the shit out of anyone, you know. So I love that. I've always had the, you know, big like, you know, strong women around me, and when I watch these movies, I'm like, thank fucking God, you know. I love it when we get these sort of movies.
100%. And the thing I like is they're rounded women as well. They're not just masculine women, if you see what I mean. They're not just full on badass. They're caring. They're looking after their mate. One of them's a doctor, you know. And they're not one dimensional of I'm the funny one, you're the sexy one, you're the tough one, and you know they've all got a bit of everything going on like normal people. And there are moments where it's like, okay, I'm really good at roping. Well, I'm really good at smashing climbers' heads in with a pickaxe, and you can put the bone back in my leg. Yeah. Special moves. But really rounded normal women, aren't they? That's the thing.
Yeah, like not all of them are Vasquez from Aliens, you know.
Yeah,
like it's
six Vasquez's.
They're a bit of everyone, but each one of them is a badass in their own way, which is great, and it's great for the movie, and it's just great the fact that, like, once again you're like, I'm happy to be on the journey with these cool women. But they move further to find a way out, and then they come across this huge gap. So basically, there's like, it's a bit like that bit in Star Wars, but like not a cliff. You know what I mean? Like the bit where they've got to go across it in Star Wars, where you've got like the, you know, two sides and a gap in the middle. Of course, you're like, well, shit's going to go down here, but they need to cross it. Of course, one of the badass ladies, she decides to climb across it. She basically is doing it to secure a line and stuff like that. But on the way, she notices that there is already a clamp there. So when Juno was talking about nobody's discovered this sort of area before, at this point, we're like, well, somebody fucking has, because they've already put a clamp there. So you're already thinking to yourself, well, like, what's happened to the people that have actually done it? Because, you know, surely if they've come out, got out alive, they would have been like, we've been here and we did it. We were the first ones. But that's because they obviously didn't get out alive. But yeah, so it does mean that people have been there before, but also without making sure it's secure, she uses it anyway. That was a little bit weird for me, because I'm like, don't fucking use that. But she does it anyway. Like, you don't know, like, the state, like the stability of that. Like, you don't know how long it's been there. But I suppose it's one of those, like, it's a mistake that happens because it has to happen for the movie, right?
And I guess it would slow the pace down, because she doesn't mention it till later. But if she was up there and fixing it on, I'm like, oh, there's an old thing here, guys, and shouting back across, then we've got dialogue we don't need. And actually, it doesn't fail when they're going across, does it? It fails when they're trying to salvage the equipment because they don't want to leave it behind. They might need it for the next ravine, and that's when it fails. So it is fine to do the job. Just not.
Yeah, you're right.
All the way.
It's just the setup for later on. That's basically what it is. Yeah,
and it's probably nice, that fake out of like, we think it's going to fail, and it doesn't fail. They all get over until she wants to bring the equipment as well. So
yeah, exactly. Because as soon as that point happens, you think, like, of course, you know, you're like, I'm watching a horror movie, so at this point, someone's going to drop and die. The fact that, like you say, it's like a fake out where somebody doesn't yet, then that's like, once again, a credit to good writing, you know, good movie making. And then, of course, Juno decides that she, like, doesn't want to leave the clamps aligned. So she's once again a badass. She, like, free climbs it, like, all the way across and stuff like that. And also, like, you don't know what's going to happen. But also, it smashes her, basically, like, it smashes her into, like, one of the rocks. And then it completely, like, the rope completely fucks up one of their hands as well. And that's a pretty gruesome moment where you're like, oh, bloody hell, like, it's a lot of moments in this movie where you're like, oh, I don't want that happening to me, you know.
That's it. And I know you always say you don't get scared of the scary stuff, but maybe they're the normal things, like, oh, you know how a rope burn feels.
Yeah.
Oh, that must be really horrible. Or a paper
Yeah.
cut. Oh, I don't want a paper cut. Never mind chainsaws.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like give me Leatherface coming after me rather than a paper cut any day. I'll be happy. But yeah, but as they get across, they actually come across some old markings on the walls that tell them that there are actually two entrances. So of course, they're like, oh shit, we need to try and find this other entrance to get out. They trek on, and Holly, that's the name, the video camera lady, her name's Holly, I think. She decides to rush ahead, but of course that absolutely mugs herself over because then she takes a tumble down a hole and she's pretty fucked up. Basically, that's the moment where I laugh my head off at the cinema because she falls and she breaks her leg and a bone comes out her leg. Of course, yeah, it's absolutely gross, but at the same time, it's her own fault, really. She's got herself to blame for that, for running off in a cave that they don't know where they're going. She's got herself to blame. But at that point, they rush to her aid, and after hearing a noise again, Sarah heads off alone and finds an old helmet, and she sees something moving in the distance before it fucks right off. And of course, no one, especially Juno, believes her. This is like our first sort of like inkling that we got our first short shot of. I mean, at that point, it does look like Gollum, like, I mean, like it's from Lord of the Rings, like it's just there perching after its precious in the background. And that's our first shot. And you're like, oh, what the fuck is that? Like, and then you're already intrigued because you're like, well, that wasn't like human. And yeah, once again, like it's at that point, the movie starts moving into like a different type of horror movie territory. We've gone from,
Yeah.
the real life claustrophobia and being trapped sort of movie to, like you're saying, when we start moving into like the monster movie side of the movie, which is great.
Well,
But yeah, no one bloody believes her.
yeah, they give us a glimpse of it, but I think because they don't believe her, that almost gives us, the audience, permission to go, maybe she's seeing stuff, and maybe it's
Yeah.
not going to be that. And so it's not a kind of boom, they've all seen it just yet. It is one of those where we could maybe question Sarah. Is she with it? Is she in shock? Is she all over the place? So yeah, buys us a few more minutes.
Yeah, you're exactly right. But then they continue forth, and when they come across an area full of bones, and while they start to panic, this is where we get an absolutely iconic all-timer of a jump scare. Honestly, I mean, look, of course, I'm gonna say it didn't jump scare me, and no, it didn't, because I understand that something's gonna happen. But this is like a proper all-timer. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's basically the moment where they're shooting on a video camera. The video camera they've turned it onto night vision so they can see what's happening. And then the camera pans around, and then we get like the full shot of one of these like monster creature things standing behind one of them. It might even be Juno. I can't remember who it is, but it's standing behind one of them, right fucking next to her, make it like mouth open. And I remember, like, in the cinema, everybody absolutely shit themselves when that happened.
The same in
And
my cinema.
it is,
Everyone.
yeah, it is, for me personally, it is like when you talk about like pure terror moments, like, and pure fear driven moments in horror movies, movies that give like jump scares. This is like one of those moments that is on. It should be on everybody's list for me as like one of the greatest jump scares in history of horror. Because it's so well executed, and you do not expect it whatsoever. Like, you sort of, something's gonna happen, but you don't expect it to be right fucking there, right next to them. And it's great. It's so fucking well done, and I absolutely love it. And they all
Yeah.
shit their pants as
The
much as
thing
everybody else does.
the thing I really liked about it is the actresses had been kind of kept apart from the actors playing the crawlers, the creeper monsters, whatever, and so they didn't know what it was going to look like, and they didn't know how that scare was going to play out. Apparently, they dropped the lights on the set. Right, one instruction is do not run off, be scared, and don't. And so they didn't know it was going to be stood right here next to one of them, and they all shit their pants as well and scattered apparently. So to keep doing another
Yeah.
take.
And it's so effective, and it's such a truly fantastic, like, it's just one of those classic iconic moments in horror that like you don't ever forget, and it just works so well for the movie. And from that point onwards, like we keep saying, it just really becomes a different type of movie. It becomes, the claustrophobia, the fact that they're trapped with themselves in a cave, that no longer becomes the threat. The threat is that now they've got these fucking monsters that are now trying to kill them. Claustrophobia means nothing anymore. It's now just the fact that you're trapped with these monsters. But the creepy noises, they continue, and then they leg it, but they don't get far, as one of their hands, the creature jumps in, jumps on the injured Holly, that's right, and bites the absolute shit out of her. So the one that had the video camera, Holly, I think she's the first one to go, isn't she? Basically, the one of the monster things basically bites the absolute shit out of her, and she's absolutely definitely dead. Bloody everywhere. There is what I love about this movie is that there is no absence of blood and gore. This will fucking give you as much as it possibly can, and it will continue to do that throughout the movie, which once again is an absolute bonus. Whilst all this chaos is happening, Sarah falls and knocks herself out. And as Juno tries to help Holly, the creature drags her body away, and this is where Juno has a full-on fucking Street Fighter fist fight with one, and actually kills one, because she is an absolute badass. As much as we don't necessarily trust her so much, you do trust her fighting style and instincts, because yeah, she ends up killing one of them. But then we get a really fucked up moment, because of course, you know, she's amped up on adrenaline, you know, all these monsters, she doesn't know if there's any more of these monsters, and we get a great shot where she turns around with this like climbing sort of like pickaxe she's got, puts it into one of them, but it's not a monster, it ends up being Beth, one of the ladies, and she stabs her right in the neck, and then rather than help, Juno basically just sods off and leaves her to bleed out. And then it's like, for me, it's like that mixture, isn't it, where it's just like, oh, she is a fucking arsehole, but at the same time, yes, she also wants to survive, and also she's a badass. But she's definitely done something wrong. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
It's a tricky one for me. Like, I really liked Beth. I thought she was the most normal, and she says something along the way like, "Fucking hell, I'm only an English teacher. I'm not Lara Croft," or something like that. And
yeah,
she's the one who is like the friend of Sarah and is trying to keep things going, isn't it? And so she seems like the nice one who's just got walloped. I mean, maybe don't sneak up on your mate when they're in the middle of a fight with monster things. Maybe say, "Hey, do you know it's me behind you?" Otherwise,
yeah.
it's axe to the neck time. But that's it, isn't it? So
Such is
it's,
life.
it's like really nasty. She leaves her for dead, but maybe she thought she was a goner, axe through the throat and all
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. But then again, Juno's obsessed with trying to save Sarah later, so maybe she didn't like Beth quite as much. Who knows?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe, yeah. And also there is like that feeling where like Beth like knows more about everything that's been going on more than Sarah knows, you know what I mean? So it's like almost one of those things where Juno's like, oh, actually I might get away with this, So but yeah, it does. I mean, as I said, you can't get over the fact that she's an absolute badass, but also she is an absolute just an arse, really. But Sarah wakes up, and where she wakes up really fucking sucks, because it looks as though that she's in the den of these gross monstrous beasts, and it is feeding time. Juno is, of course, she's still out there looking for Sarah, and the rest of the gang are moving forward to find their way out. But as they lay still to avoid becoming dinner, there's a moment where two of them are basically both huddled together. This is one of the creatures basically is right next to them. It's there that we realise that they're blind. They can't see you. They can only, like, obviously it's by smell and touch and everything like that. But they obviously sound and everything. But they can't actually see you. They're bloody blind. But one thing they can hear is alarms going off on somebody's phone or on somebody's watch, but at the worst possible time, like typical movie stuff where you think they're safe. No, they're fucking not, because a watch goes off, and then of course, but luckily they do get away at that point. Like you think that that's them gone, but they do get away. Back with Sarah, and she's wading her way through all the bones and the blood, and then she comes across Holly's dead body, and Sarah take the thing basically. She comes across Holly. Of course, Holly is dead. She's the one that fell down, and basically I laughed at her bone coming out of her leg. But they did like basically attach like one of the climbing pickaxe sort of things or whatever, didn't they, to her leg or something as like as a support to her. But they basically, Sarah decides to take that, so she's essentially got like a weapon or something like that to defend herself if needed be.
There's a few things. There's a few things going on there as well, aren't there? So there's a bit where Sarah's in the kind of the den, and the monsters are eating Holly's, and she's got to just kind of sit that close, and so
Yeah.
she realizes they can't see, but they can hear, and it's like that's a bit grim. I don't think Sarah and Holly were best buds. It was like a friend of a friend of a friend, but still, you're having a beer with them yesterday, and they're getting eaten like half a meter in front of you, and
Yeah, like
yeah,
no one wants to see somebody get
no.
eaten, do they?
But yeah, and then I think it's the other two who say like, "Oh, they can't see" or something, just in case we didn't catch on with that. Like,
Yeah.
it's like they
Yeah,
just
yeah,
tell you a
like
bit of
just in case
exposition.
anybody's just like, why did it do that? And then they're like, oh, now we know because they laid it out for us as simple as possible. But yeah, but yeah, of course, Holly, she doesn't need this thing in her leg anymore. She's definitely dead. So Sarah takes it. She makes a fire with it. Not, I mean, obviously it looks cool. I don't necessarily know if it's the greatest decision because obviously, fire does smell a little bit, so they could probably smell the fire. But it is what it is, Two of the other ladies are up next with Becky getting attacked. But just in time, Monster Slayer Juno swoops in and literally breaks one of the necks. Once again, fucking cool scene. Juno is just a badass. Like literally, she uses her hands and snaps one of the monster's heads, like necks, like
Like 80s style.
yeah. It's so like she proper like Chuck Norris's like somebody's neck, like you know what I mean? Like it's so fucking cool. And then you hate her at the same time. You know what I mean? Like it is genuinely like a very good representation in a movie of a character that like you love you hate to love and love to hate. You know what I mean? Like she is that very like it's a very good put to screen that type of character. Yeah, but it's once again she's just so fucking cool but horrible at the same time. But yeah, so she breaks their net anyway, and Dr. Lady tells us more about the creatures, like you're saying, how they can't see. We did need it, but just in case you do need it, it's there. And then, of course, we already know that anyway. But they are not leaving without Sarah. At that point, I think they might hear her or something. They hear her in the distance, so they don't want to leave without Sarah. Meanwhile, Sarah comes across Beth, and she's not doing great. So basically, she's already seen Holly. She was dead. Beth is now basically dying. She's not doing great at all. She asks Sarah to basically kill her so she doesn't get eaten by these monsters. Once again, it's like a sad, emotional moment, but also at the same time, as you keep saying as well, like it's like the humanizing side of it as well. Like I wouldn't want to get eaten by these monsters, and I'm dying anyway. So I'd rather a friend finish me off than be somebody else's tea and supper. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But the creatures obviously they do, and Sarah does. But it's basically she. This bit's weird as well because she does kill her in the most fucking horrible way. She literally picks up a rock and smashes her face in, and when I watched it for like the prep the other night, I was just like, there must have been a better way for that. You know what I mean?
I
Rather than
thought
like,
I thought
yeah,
that myself. I was like, of all the options, you could gently sit down and like slit her wrists and hold her or something. No, I'm going to smash your head in with a huge rock and crush you. I mean,
yeah,
Sarah's
because it's
having
not.
such a bad time of it, isn't she? She's because in that conversation as well, she finds out she's got Juno's necklace. You can't trust our friend Juno, and hang on, that's something from your fella. And so I think we
Yeah,
find out that Beth knew. So maybe Beth knew about the affair, and it's like, I'm really sorry. It was whatever his name was, Ken, whatever. And so
yeah,
Sarah's having all this, like, oh, my dead husband, who I've been grieving for, was having it away with my friend who's just killed my other friend, and now I've squashed your head with a rock. She's not having
yeah.
her best day.
She's not. No, like yeah, this isn't the best time that she's had ever. But also at the start of the movie was also not the best time that she's had ever. So poor old Sarah. But yeah, so she decides to smash her friend's face in with a big bloody rock. But then right away, straight after that, she then gets attacked by a creature. But then she then smashes her face in. She gets her badass moment. She smashes that monster's face in, and then but then that moment as well, we learned that was like a little, like a child of creature, like it was a youngling, I suppose, of the creatures. And then the mummy monster is not happy whatsoever. So Sarah absolutely legs it, but then she falls into a big pool of blood and guts, which looks fucking great. Once again, I'm
Brilliant.
not going to talk about. I'm not going to talk about the visual side of it because when I get to my overall thoughts, that's where I go into it because there's a lot to unpack when it comes to that. But yeah, she falls into this fucking sea of blood, which looks great. Is there's bloody loads of fucking guts and everything like that. The mummy monster is not happy whatsoever, and then basically they have a little bit of a fight, and Sarah shoves a bone through her face, and then it comes face to face with another creature, and then she smashes that one in the face also. So once again, but it's just constant badass women doing badass things, and it's fucking awesome.
And I don't know how they cope, because you'd be bloody terrified. But I think before the big daddy comes in, Sarah has to lie down and play dead, and it's like leaning on her, isn't it? Kind of listening around. So it's not next to her; it's literally kind of standing on her head, looking for her. And you're lying there going, "I'm going to try and kill you in a minute." It's my word, that's horrible.
I know, exactly. And also, it's one of those moments where you put yourself in that moment, and this movie does that throughout. And that's one of the things that's great about this movie, is that it does that. It plays on that a lot throughout the movie, where it's like, what would you do in that situation? You know what I mean? And like, basically, so many of these situations, you're like, nah, I'd be fucked, actually. So,
I'd be
but then
stuck
also,
in the tunnel, crushed to death earlier. Panicking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I would have died in just a claustrophobic mess of just in the corner somewhere. But there is also a bit that was a little bit stupid after this as well, where she does, like, she's there, like, killed them, and it's almost like the war cry at the end she gives out. She screams, but then I was just like, that's a bit stupid, because you're telling everyone, if there's more of these monsters, you're telling them exactly where you are. So it's almost like one of those moments where it's just like, is it a war cry out for her to be like, just come and fucking get me? Or is it like, she's just like, I'm a badass and I'm just killed all these things and so on.
Sarah kind of goes a bit feral, doesn't she? And probably helped by the fact she gets covered in all the blood and looks the part. But she's made fire, and she's smashed their head in with a bone, and she's Scottish, so she's probably going, come on, I'll have the lot of you. She's kind of moved from that kind of broken, scared woman into that really kind of feral, monstrous. It's almost like she's one of them, or to beat them, she's becoming them as well. So give it a war cry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then, but the rest of the gang, obviously, they hear her. They know that she's alive. Juno wants to find her, but the others want to get the absolute shit out of there. And that they absolutely need to do is Juno is shining in a torch around to reveal. Basically, this is the moment where they reveal that there's absolutely shitloads of Schmeagles coming after him. Now's the time that they're like, fuck it, we've got to get out. One of the ladies has to try and climb that gap that we saw from earlier, like we mentioned. That comes back, but she doesn't make it. And she gets basically as she's going halfway through, and that one, obviously the dodgy one that we mentioned earlier, is actually dodgy. And then also in front of her, like on the wall, is one of these fucking monsters. But she does manage to kill it, doesn't she? She's not necessarily kill it at that moment, but she does like stab the absolute shit out of it. But it does rip her throat out. She's another one that's obviously left hanging. She's just left hanging around. She's absolutely definitely dead. And then Juno has no choice to basically make a jump and hope for the absolute best. She lands in water. This bit made me laugh, because I was just like, do they know that there's water there? Did she just risk it for everything? She was just like, I'm dead either way.
There's two of them, aren't there? So there's, I can't remember the name. Sam, one of the sisters, is the one who's dead, and the other sister, Rebecca, is getting pulled back down, getting eaten, and
that's right, yeah,
clawing on the rocks with her nails coming out. That was grim as well. And so, Juno's got, well, I either get eaten like her, or let's see what's down this hole and hope there's water.
Yeah, that's it. And she lands in the water. But once again, there's no relief, because she instantly gets attacked underwater by one of these monsters. But obviously, Juno, the monster slayer, she strikes again and kills another one. Once again, absolute badass. Juno climbs out and comes face to face with a bloodied and angry Sarah. Once again, you're right. She goes, this is where she's like lost the plot completely. She's completely feral. She's in like murder mode. So so Sarah's like, she's very angry. She's completely like, she's gone. With only Sarah and Juno left, they venture forth to find a way out. But suddenly they are surrounded by creatures. And then a big battle commences. Basically, it's just a big fucking fight between Sarah, Juno, and these big monsters, with blood and biting and eye gouging as well. She fucking puts her thumb in one of their eyes and stuff like that, which is great. They actually kick one of the monsters in the balls, which is always a go-to move. Yeah. Why not? If it can hurt them, then why not? You've got to try it.
We're not playing fair. eyes and
No,
nuts.
no.
Give it anything you can.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. But luckily, they do become they're victorious. But then Sarah lets on. This is the moment that Sarah lets on to Juno that she knows what she's done, everything that Juno has done. When it comes to having the affair with the husband, when it comes to what she did to Beth, leaving her to die. At this point, this is where it just feels like it's just like that's just too much for Sarah, and she sort of basically knows what has to happen to Juno, and rather than being like making it a quick death, she obviously feels like that Juno doesn't deserve it, and she gets this like climbing axe sort of thing, and rather than shoving it into her neck, which I thought she was going to do, she shoves it into her leg, which means that Juno is basically going to struggle to move about and so on like that. So it's like a proper arsehole move, but at the same time, it's like, well, I like it because it's different. You know what I mean? Like it just feels like that's what Sarah feels like she deserves. Like if she wants to, get out of all this, she's going to have to try and fight for it. But you know,
And it's a funny one, isn't it? Because it's not just in some other films. It'd be like, if I'll stitch you up and I've got my escape route as a result. She's got so much going on. She now knows that this woman's had an affair with her husband and maybe was the reason of the tension that her husband and kid died. This woman's killed my mate Beth not long since and left her for dead. There's a lot of anger coming out into that
yes.
leg swing, isn't there? So it's not just one dimensional. There's a lot going on in her mind, isn't there?
And once again, that's a true testament to the movie that it does that. And there are, like you mentioned, there's not a lot of movies would not have done this. A lot of movies would have just done the simple thing and the thing that doesn't make sense to who the characters and what the characters are and what they've been through. It just feels like this movie is written so organically well, like to understand every point of what every point happens in this movie. It's just so structurally when it comes to like a movie, but also when it comes structurally from the characterization of it, and the characters in the movie. It's so well put together. Like even as we get this far into the movie, we're still like, oh, okay, there's still like this happening, with these characters. It's so good. But after that, of course, Juno is left behind injured for the monsters. Sarah absolutely legs it and falls, but she sees light and heads towards it and escapes. She runs off to the car and drives off really bloody quick and doesn't look back, drifting basically goes full fast and furious. She's drifting everywhere. She's getting out there as quick as possible, but then she does finally pull over and breaks down after what she's been through. But guess what? Dependent on what ending you see, but we're going with the English version.
Yeah.
But guess what? Unfortunately, it wasn't real. As she wakes up where she was in the cave, seemingly accepting her fate, as she sits there with her deceased daughter, and her descent into madness is complete. See what I did there? It's a double meaning to the title. You see, it's not just a descent into the darkness of the cave; it's a descent into madness. Clever man I am.
Brilliant. Very clever.
As the movie ends with her they're all alone and the sounds of screaming monsters, depending on what version you watch, which of course we'll chat about. But there was I've got that in my production info in fact, so I will wait. But depending on what version you watch, there are different endings to this movie. One of the movies sets up the sequel because of course there has to be a sequel, right? But anyway, so that's the movie. That's everything that happens in the movie. General conversation wise. So one thing that I kept on talking about throughout all of this is that this movie is visually fucking stunning. Like this is a beautiful movie and it is beautiful in so many ways. Like you've got cinematically the setting of the cave itself lends itself to the screen. Like it looks so great. The lighting is absolutely fantastic. Like the movie itself looks great. But then when you start shoving in the elements of like the blood, the guts and the gore, and I'll talk a little bit about that as well. Like everything in this movie, there's so much iconography in this movie when it comes to like horror 101 that it's so good that was one of it's one of those things. Like this is a movie that I don't watch regularly, but I don't watch it regularly on purpose because I don't want it to be one of those. Like, I love it when I watch a movie and there are things that I forget about it. Like, for example, like a thing that I'll go into a minute. But one of the things that I did forget about this movie is that I always knew that this was like a good looking movie. But when you watch it again, I was like, fucking hell, like, technically, this is an absolutely gorgeous movie.
Yeah, yeah. There's so much color, isn't there, in the lighting when they're underground. Like that is so cleverly lit, and they have to do that. They have to think about the green glow sticks or the head torch more yellow and all this stuff. And so we get that sense of different color, the red flare, and I mean, so we're moving around these caves, and they need to be lit just right, partly for the tension, but also we're in a cave. It wouldn't feel right to be really naturally lit as well. But there's like a real rich palette depending on what's happening, and it looks stunning. When we're above ground, looks fabulous. It's like a advert for the national park, wherever they are, the Appalachian Mountains,
Yeah.
whatever. Looks gorgeous, and loads of the kind of camera movement to really kind of messes around. I think when she's spinning on the rope or something, the camera's going round whilst she's fighting and trying to stab the monster and stuff. Looks fantastic, and the soundtrack's great as well. There's moments he clearly likes The Thing, doesn't he, old Neil Marshall? Because
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
moments
You've
where
got
it's
the
like
dum dum
Ennio
dum dum.
Morricone vibes and stuff, John
Yeah.
Carpenter vibes. But yeah,
Yeah.
that brilliant.
I'm glad you said that because yeah, that was one of my things from it as well. You've literally got the dum 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 dum,
Yeah,
like like from The Thing. There's so much of The Thing, so I'm glad that you picked up on that as well because yeah, he absolutely clearly loved that, and that was clearly like musically an inspiration. But at the same time, it bloody works for the movie. But yeah, it's one of those things like I could not. You're exactly right. Like it's just this could be such a dull looking movie because it's just a fucking cave. But it's so stunning, this movie. It really, truly is. And the lighting and all the shots, like you're saying, with the flares look fucking great. And I just love, like, the close-ups that they keep on doing of, like, when the monsters are chomping down or, like, there's loads of, like blood and guts. That's my other thing as well, is that the fight scenes are brilliant. Like they're all badasses as we've spoken about, but choreography wise and that the fight scenes are actually great. Like they're just great action fight scenes that so happen to be women fighting monsters and they're badasses, and it's great. So there's another element to it that's great. But I love the fact that this movie is so bloody and so gory. Like that was one of the other things I forgot, was how heavy it goes on blood and how heavy it goes on the gore. Like this movie is full on, like, violent movie. Like
yeah.
this movie is so much more violent than I remember every time.
Well, even before the monsters, because that first 5 minutes, like we see the poles come through the headrest,
Yeah.
so we can imagine the guy's head from the front, and it is that thing, Sometimes our imagination's doing a lot of lifting, but the effects on the screen are doing some lifting too. And there's a dream sequence, isn't there, where she's like looking out the window and thunk, some pole hits her.
Yeah.
And then even the broken leg, stuff that's kind of the normal life pre-monster is like really gory, but really looks real and really visceral, and you'd be like, ew, you could be a paramedic turning up to this, and it'd be like, it's a bit yucky. So
Yeah.
yeah, before the blood
Yeah.
and guts and axes and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And then one of the other things that I've got is, and one of the things that I really liked about this. So, and I spoke a bit about this when we did Dog Soldiers, and I've spoken about this on the channel before and stuff like that. But I'm someone that, even though I'm English and stuff, of course, I have always really struggled watching like British movies and stuff. I've always been like that. I just, something about them just puts me off them. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because like I grew up just watching American movies, more so than British stuff. I've never been the biggest fan of like British programs and stuff. I've never really watched them because I just don't like them. It's just something that I've never really liked. So it's interesting when I watch a movie like this with, of course, a British cast, and it doesn't feel British, if you get what I mean. Of course, when they're talking, yes, it does. But this is a very Hollywood style movie, and that is one of the for me that's one of the credits to the movie, because of course this is a British movie, but it doesn't feel that British. Does that make sense?
Perfectly. I think it feels really international, and I think Neil Marshall, as much as we're not fans of his later movies. Brilliant, so fantastic in this.
Yeah.
And he's a bloke directing a movie about women, and he's a British bloke. But he's got, I mean, the characters, we've got a Scottish girl, an Irish girl. Okay, there's
Irish, yeah.
Beth, who's very well spoken English, and then the two sisters who are Swedish, Scandinavian, something like that,
Yeah.
aren't they? So, and it's set in America in a cave, but caves of caves, aren't they? So it's got that sense of a real mishmash melting pot of heritage, culture, and everything, as opposed to the soldiers in Dog Soldiers who were all British squaddy mates and stuff like that. So definitely
Yeah,
feels
and
like
that's the
a global movie.
absolutely, and that's the thing with Dog Soldiers as well, and like that's one of the things that got me through Dog Soldiers, because that movie obviously is unapologetically like a British movie in regards to the characters, Sean Pertwee and everyone like that. Like they're so fucking like British, English, and Scottish and everything in that movie. But the movie itself, like, does it, the way that it's filmed, the way that it's paced, the way that it like plays on screen is very American, very Hollywood horror. And I think that that is just such a strength of Neil Marshall as a director, is that, like you're saying, he's able to make these movies that just feel so different from the norm of what British horror or British movies are. He was really fantastic at doing that. And I think that when he did that with Dog Soldiers and Descent, I think that actually he did actually open up the doors for a lot of other British movies that would actually start taking on this more of like the American style of filming, and the American style of movies put to screen, because there is a big difference between American movies and British movies. And a lot of that, obviously, a big part of that is the annoying accents. Even though I'm fucking as British as they come and as English as they come, but I annoy myself, so I apologise to everyone. But yeah, I think that is one of his strengths that he showed in Dog Soldiers, and definitely showed in The Descent, that he's able to create something that feels more than just a British movie, which would normally annoy the absolute fuck out of me. So
You can see his
yeah,
influences, can't you? And at that time, 2000s, British horror had been like Hammer horror and Gothic
yeah,
and old vampires and stuff, or it was Hugh Grant kind of with a quiff doing rom-coms. But you can see here's a bloke who's probably a similar-ish age to us, having grown up. And in Dog Soldiers, you had a vibe of like Evil Dead, Assault on Precinct 13.
and
This feels
Predator
a
and all that
bit
sort of
like,
stuff. Yeah.
this feels like a bit of The Thing, a bit of Chainsaw Massacre. And to be fair, his next one, whilst not as good as these two, I think is trying to go with that vibe of Escape from New York. And it's that sort of, you going over Hadrian's Wall into the unknown, trying to, do you know what I mean? You can see the kind of influences that we grew up on, that he grew up on, all American stuff into a British movie. Yeah.
Yeah. What was his next one? Was it Pandorum
I thought
or
it
was
was
that
Doomsday or something, isn't it? And it's like
something I can't fucking
something in
remember.
Scotland has gone nuts, and then Hadrian's
Yeah,
Wall
I
is
think you're
the
right.
barrier
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something like that. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the good thing is, and I think that what works with Neil Marshall is that he clearly, like you're saying, like from when he grew up and the movies that he obviously grew up with, he has those movies as his influence, and they're the ones that he has looked at as inspiration for him as a filmmaker. And when you have that, like I always say, like for me, like outside of this, filmmaking wise, like my inspiration is very similar to like things like obviously The Thing and Evil Dead and stuff like that. So when it comes to like filmmaking, in my brain, I'm not going to the old school movies from the 40s or 50s. I'm going with the movies that I grew up with, as my inspiration. The one that obviously started on my journey through horror, but also started my journey of going, I want to be a filmmaker, Evil Dead, Brain Dead, even bloody Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight, like these sort of movies that I grew up with are like my inspiration to go, like that's where my brain goes when it comes to like making movies and stuff. So Neil Marshall clearly has like a very good foundation in when it comes to like the filmmaking like inspirations that he has, because he is able to put that onto screen. The sad thing is, and as we've said, is that he stopped doing that, and I don't know what the fuck happened. And I'm sure there's people out there that absolutely love everything that he's done. But I mean, obviously, with me personally, I can only say that like Dog Soldiers and The Descent are the ones that really like stand out. And I'm also a little bit gutted about that, because The Descent is so good. When I get to my overall thoughts, I'll really go into anything. Is there anything else, rather than obviously doing the overall thoughts anyway, because we've got production info, is there anything else that you wanted to say, like, about the movie, like, that we missed or anything like that?
Oh, the thing that really struck me, which I'd not realised, which didn't surprise me, but kind of does, it's not filmed in real caves. They were sets. They had 20 sets of caves, which makes sense in making movies, but it shows how good those sets were that you watch it and you think, oh, they're just in some caves doing some stuff. So that was a bit of trivia that I found that I was like, oh, yeah, that really, it just shows how good it was. I mean, there's loads of stuff in there about the fact that they're women and how you contrast that with the 6 women, 6 men in Dog Soldiers, and I think that shows where there's that extra depth in The Descent, and it's that question of which one do you prefer. And actually The Descent is probably a richer movie, not just because there's women, but because there's extra narratives. Those soldiers are fighting the common enemy, getting picked off one by one and coming together, and these women are kind of fragmenting in that you can see that tension. You've watched it your second time, you know she's had an affair, but even then you can see there's something not right between Juno and Sarah, and they're leaving one behind and trying to run off and forget Sarah. No, I can hear her. Come on. They're dispersing. So it's not a common enemy. It's the grief, it's the tension, it's the backstory, it's the secret as well. So there's an extra layer to The Descent, which is really, really powerful. I'm sure if we're sort of a women's podcast, they would have other things that you would perceive as a woman as well. But it was great watching really rounded women on the screen who weren't one-dimensional nonsense.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like, even when we did the Dog Soldiers episode, we did say we prefer this movie to Dog Soldiers because we knew that we would talk about The Descent. Of course, we had to. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Like that, this is the movie that I prefer over it. And you're exactly right. Like Dog Soldiers is great, but there is so many layers to not just the movie itself. Like, you know, like we said, like you almost get like 2 different types of horror movies in one movie. But it is the fact, like you're exactly right in regards to when it comes to what the characters and what is driving the characters and who they are as people. Like there is so much layers in this movie that so many other movies don't fucking do. And you know, whether that's a male cast, whether it's a female cast, whether it's any cast, there are so many movies, like I mentioned at the start, especially now, that don't take the time to give a shit about that. The fact that this movie has that, and this movie also does something that once again not many movies do now, and I talk about this quite a lot once again we spoke about it when we did Dog Soldiers, and I'll speak about it quite a lot, where this movie has a lot of characters, but it doesn't ever feel overpopulated. You know, like it never feels like, oh, we've got to be with this character now. We've got to be with this character. All the characters have a reason to be there. All of the characters have a purpose. Of course, to die, but it's about how we get to that purpose of them dying is still interesting. It's still intriguing. You know, what sort of what part have they got to play in this movie? You enjoy that journey rather than going, this person needs to hurry up and die, which is what obviously
Yeah,
happens in so many movies now.
it's
So
it's
it's really
telling,
well
isn't
put
it?
together.
You can remember their names. It's not just the blonde one, the redhead, the brunette, the one with glasses. You know who these people are, and you've got a sense of how their relationships are. Like you say, you're not just waiting for them to die. You're cheering them on and hoping actually more than one of them might make it through. I mean, it's got that
Yeah,
real
exactly.
downer ending as well. But as you often say with stuff as well, they've kind of earned that, and it's kind of part of
Yes.
her final moment of grief and processing everything, and she's still seeing her daughter. It's the end of it for Sarah, you know. So whether we have that American end or the British end that we've seen, you know, it's a downer. Everyone's dead, but we're okay with it because you've earned it,
Yeah.
Neil. Well done.
Exactly right. Yeah, you're exactly right. Production info and facts wise, you said this as well, but there was 21 separate cave sets were built for the film. These were carefully reused with different camera angles, set dressing, and lighting to suggest a nearly endless collection of interconnected tunnels and caverns. Yeah, it's fucking cool. I love the fact that they actually built sets, and that obviously, you know, is something that adds to the movie. And also, yeah, they look real. Like you wouldn't ever think to yourself like these were built sets. So production design wise, it's fucking phenomenal. Absolutely stunning, this movie. In every area, this movie is stunning. The appearance of the creatures was kept secret, once again, like you said, from the cast members until the first scene in which they encountered them was filmed. When the cast were finally filming the scene where the group encountered the crawlers or the Schmeagles, the actors were genuinely scared and screamed the building down, running off set. And then different endings. So we did obviously mention this, but in the UK we get like the bummer ending of it, where of course Sarah doesn't get out; she's still trapped. But of course, that doesn't play well for an American audience or other audiences around the world, where they do prefer a slightly happy ending, and also it don't really work for a sequel. So audiences basically they change the ending where Sarah does escape at the end. I think it's like it cuts essentially. I think it's when she gets out into the car or something. Doesn't it cut there rather than going back into seeing her there?
It's the same thing of racing away in the car, and I like that because it wasn't. You kind of expect she'll just get to the car and one will grab you, or she'll just sit down and one will be in the back seat. But no, she drives off like an off-road hero,
Yeah,
belting away, and then has a good old cry. She's earned that good cry in the lay-by, and it's that moment when she sees like Juno's ghost for that jump scare. I think that's where the American one finishes. Of she is
yes.
safe. She's just seen a ghost, and we get there's a ghost. Oh, and we're back in the cave, so get stuffed. Yes.
Yeah, that's it. I know, that's it. And then obviously, of course, then we do get the sequel to The Descent. But yeah, and then the last thing that I've got production info is that if you look closely when Sarah falls onto the bones, you will see a skull from a werewolf from, of course, Dog Soldiers. So basically, it's Neil Marshall saying they exist in the same sort of world. Maybe like, but I'm surprised they didn't do like the Schmeagles versus the werewolves, movie. But also, we all know that Neil Marshall is a million movies he'd like to do and never gets a chance to do them. So.
He made two classics. He did his good job. I saw a thing. There was a bit of a fan theory that actually were there only monsters, or is Sarah, in her kind of process in her grief, gone crazy and killed all her mates down the mine? And there was a scene that Neil Marshall had filmed a glimpse of one of the crawlers in the hospital scene when she's having that kind of nightmare. And he took it out because it would almost be like, yeah, that's a kind of clue that none of it is real because they're not in the hospital. Right. But quite a nice little fan theory of like, is it real? A bit like Blair Witch. Some people feel it was all a fake out so that those two fellas could kill whatever her name was, Heather.
Heather,
that plays better with there are just monsters. I like the idea actually that, like I did, of watching the first half and then put the kids to bed and do all my stuff and all that thing. Would that have made a great 90-minute movie of just the tension of caving and you've broken your leg and you've fallen down, and it would be a different movie without the monsters. But I think that stands up and could have done. But even nicer that we get those two movies as well, that we kind of jam them together.
Yeah, that's the thing as well. Like you're saying, because this movie can work without the monsters. That's what's great about it. The fact that we do get the monsters is like an added bonus. The fact that it goes so fucking brutal and violent and visceral is so fucking cool that that is an extra thing to love about this movie. But the fact that there is such an emotional journey that you can go on with these characters, just with everything that's happened before the monsters, is just another testament and a benefit of what the movie can offer. So yeah, it's just such a cool movie. Well, talking about that, let's go into our overall thoughts. It only has to be quick because, of course, we've spoken loads about it anyway. But what are I always let my guests go first. What are your overall thoughts on The Descent?
I really like it for so many reasons. As we've said, there's so much going on. It's a great monster movie. Fantastic. It's a great claustrophobia, stuck down a cave, hating that. It's a great narrative about some friends, and particularly looking at female friends and stuff like that as well. So there's so many layers to it. It's you can watch it again and again. It's not the kind of thing, like you say, that you would watch sort of once a week. But when you come back to it, it feels really fresh. It's not like one and done, put it on the shelf. It's like, okay, yeah, Descent, let's stick that on. That'll be good. And you enjoy it from start to finish. You're not waiting for the monsters bored of the start or whatever. So it holds up so well. 21 years old, which makes me feel old. but
Yeah.
stands up. And do you know what? They could have made it this year, and I'm sure with stuff like Sinners, it would be getting a lot more love now that horror is more mainstream. The way it's lit, the production, you'd be throwing awards at this sort of stuff in a more modern setting. So it's a shame for Neil that he knocked it out in the 2000s, but there we go.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, everything you said is exactly right. I was trying to think like how I was going to sum it up because we've said everything really, like, and I've spoken about how, and you said it there. Visually, this movie is stunning. There's so many layers to it, and it works. I love the fact that you get a couple of different types of horror movies in one movie. I love the fact that it isn't a slow burn movie. I love the fact that it just starts and is already going and doesn't stop. It is a relentless movie. I love the fact that it's more gorier, more bloody, more brutal than I ever remember. I love the fact that we've got strong, badass women that have fucking cool fight scenes, breaks Gollum's neck, and it's fucking great, and I love it. But I was thinking about like summing it up, Rise, like this is genuinely a masterpiece of horror. That's the way that I look at this movie. And every time I watch this movie, it is a movie that like cements that to me. I think that this is a perfect movie to recommend to people that don't know about horror. And what I mean by that is that it almost has everything that can really start somebody's journey through horror if that's something that they want to get into. Because of course, there are so many people out there that don't like horror or don't want to watch horror, or they might want to start. I think the reason Descent works so well, that can do that and work so well as a movie that can be a great recommendation for people that want to start watching horror, is because it has everything in regards to the story. Like we've already mentioned, you've got great characters. You enjoy the journey you're going on with them. It doesn't get to the brutality side of it until later on, but it has all this tension and dread and claustrophobia that is horrific enough. And that is something that obviously, helps people when it comes to starting to watch horror. But also, it then is a movie that goes to those extra depths, those extra lengths when it comes to the brutality and the gore and everything like that. And it's one of those things where if you're showing this to somebody and they can handle that, this movie is a lot more extreme than what I always remember when it comes to the violence. It is an ultra violent. I'm not saying that this is like your Terrifier and all that sort of stuff, but for what looks to be like a Hollywood sort of horror in a way, it is an ultra violent movie. Like there are moments of like grindhouse ultra violence in this. And I think that if you're playing this for somebody that wants to get into horror and they can handle that sort of stuff, well, then they can handle the easy stuff. So I think it's a very good movie to recommend to people who sort of want to get into horror, because it sort of has a mixture of everything. I mean, yes, it doesn't have ghosts and ghouls and stuff. I mean, sort of, but not in the sort of paranormal activity way. But it has a lot of horror influences in this, and a lot of things that are pretty extreme in horror for people to go, well, if I can watch The Descent, I can probably watch quite a lot. And that's, to me, I think that is a real testament to this movie, because there are so many movies I wouldn't recommend to anyone, and this is a movie that I would honestly recommend to anyone. Even if they don't necessarily like horror, it might be a movie that gets them into horror
Yeah.
because of the type of movie it is. So
And
yeah,
the
fantastic
storyline is there,
movie.
isn't it? I mean, I think with the violence, just to come in on that one as well, it's not a demon clown chopping people up for the sake of it. It's you're dead or you kill this creeper thing and all you've got is your thumbs, so go for it. And that can feel very gratuitous, but because they're so real, you're like,
Yeah,
okay, go for it. You're either you and
yeah.
your mates are dead, or tack them on and have a go at it. So I think that's how people could probably be like, I don't like it, but I can see why they're doing it. It's not gratuitous, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like, it's violence for a reason. And it's horror, so you're allowed to. The only thing I will say is that maybe find a nicer way to kill your friend if you have to,
Yeah.
rather than a big fucking rock. Like, that doesn't hurt well. But anyway, so that's the movie. That is The Descent. Um, it's fucking great. It's fantastic. It is Neil Marshall for me, and I'm sure it is for you as well. But it's Neil Marshall's best movie. Dog Soldier's fantastic, but this is just, it's just a great movie. Like when I watched it, to do in prep, it's a movie that I always know that I love and I always know that I enjoy. But every time I watch it, it makes me go, wow, like it's always better than what I remember. That is not easy, because the more you watch a movie, the more you know. Sometimes you're like, I've seen this so many fucking times, like I don't need to ever watch it again. I could watch The Descent tomorrow and still go, what a fucking good movie.
Yeah.
And then I'll watch it in 5 years' time when it's even older and we're even older. And then I'm still gonna go, what a fucking good movie. It's a truly great one. It really is. Of course, on the show we have the segment Your First Time. That is where you, listeners, watchers, or just anyone in this incredible horror community, or bloody anyone, you send me over your first time horror movie memories and I read it out on the show. Of course, I do always ask my guests as well, but Leighton being a returning guest, anybody that's returned before, I always ask them for a recommendation. So we'll do that in a minute. It gives you a bit of time to think about it. But this one was sent over to me by Brandon O, host of the Terrorific podcast at Terrorific Podcast on Instagram. That's where you can find them. Hopefully I said that right. If not, I've mugged myself and them. I apologize. But found footage is my favourite horror subgenre. And the first one I remember watching is Paranormal Activity. I absolutely loved it. I watched it in a group with about 10 people and everybody was jumping. The Blair Witch Project didn't mean anything to me at the time, so this was my first time seeing such a low-budget film able to build tension and fear without having to show something scary on the screen. I always think the powder footprint scene is one of the more underrated spooky moments in modern movie history. So simple yet effective. Paranormal Activity started me down the found footage rabbit hole, and these days they're always at the top of my watch list. However, I rewatched Paranormal Activity last year for an episode of the Terrific podcast, and it feels like a totally different movie now. I know what they mean by that. The tension and spookiness is still there, but it's hard to focus on that with Micah's character being such a douchebag. This dude spent the whole movie gaslighting Katie, which went completely over my head the first time I watched it. Yay for maturity. Brilliant. I love that. Thank you so much for sending that through, Brandon. I appreciate it. Fantastic read, and I love sharing it on. And you're right. Mika, whatever his name is, Paranormal Activity, EA's a fucking dick, and for the whole movie. And funny enough, I knew that from the first time I watched it, Paranormal Activity. I did think he was a dick from the first time. But you're right. The more you watch the movie, you're like, what a prick this guy is. Like, so horrible. But, Paranormal Activity, I suppose, once again, that's another movie that's a good movie to recommend to people. And that stands the test of time because it's a pretty easy one to get into. People can keep watching that one over and over again, whether it's good or not anymore. I don't know. Well, I saw it not too long ago and, I nearly fell asleep, but we won't say any more about that anyway. But anyway, thank you so much, Brandon, sending that over. If you, and please do, because I love this segment. I've had this segment in the show since I first started Let's Talk Horror. The sad thing is that I put this out and unfortunately I'm really not getting any sent over anymore, and that's sad because I love this segment and I don't want to not have it. So if you are watching this, if you're listening to it, if you haven't sent yours over, if you want a shout out, I mean, as I always say, it's like free fucking promo. You're welcome. So just send them over. Go to Instagram, pop it in there like as a DM, like Brandon has done. Send me your first horror movie memory and I'll read it out on the show, because after this one or maybe the next one, I haven't got any. And that's a sad time if I don't get to do it on the show, because obviously it's a big part of the show and obviously a big part of, the horror community sort of thing that I love. I love reading it and I love sharing it on. So send them over, you buggers. But Leighton, let's have a recommendation if you've got one.
Yeah, sure. I had to think about this. I mean, it's a slightly shorter one, so it's only about 35 minutes. And I think it's still on YouTube. So it's a 1970s Spanish movie called La Cabina, about a chap who goes in a phone booth and then things don't quite work out for him, but I won't spoil it any further. It is brilliant. I remember catching it on like a late night Channel 4 or something like that, slightly alternative. and for years been like, I don't know what it's called, I don't know what it's about. And then the internet arrives, and I'm like, what's the movie where that thing happens to that bloke? I think he might be Spanish. And there it is. And so I've since watched it on YouTube, and it is brilliant. I think it's like 1972, like 35 minutes. Well worth your time on YouTube for sure.
Well, there you go. There's a recommendation. And what's great about doing these recommendations is that I'm getting loads of them myself as well. So there's one for me as well. So everybody wins. I get a recommendation. You all get a recommendation as well. So thank you for that, Leighton. I appreciate it. But there we go. That's the episode. We spoke everything about the Descent that we possibly can. Of course, you can tell how much we love it. God knows what we're going to do for our next movie, because we can't do any more Neil Marshall movies, unfortunately. Sorry, Neil Marshall, if you ever listen to this, I apologize. I mean, he can't be too mad, because we are literally talking about how the Descent is a masterpiece of horror.
Yeah.
Just, it's not our fault he hasn't made others that are like to this level. That's his own fucking fault.
Some of the other ones are okay. I didn't like his newest one, but some of the other ones, you could watch it once, great. But it's because the standard is set up here by those first two. You're like, come on, just try and get back up there again.
Do you reckon it's a case that he's set the bar too high? Maybe that's what it is. Like, maybe if all of his, this movie was like all of his other movies, we'd be like, yeah, all right, I get it. But the fact that Dog Soldiers, Descent, such a high bar, I mean, but whatever. At least we get the Descent, right? I suppose that's the main thing out of it. We get the Descent, and we get to keep watching it. Now it's, what you say, 21 years old. Jesus Christ, that makes me feel old. So there we go. But now it's your time, Leighton, to promote everything that you do with the Surviving Horror podcast. The floor is yours. Your turn.
Yeah, thank you. So Surviving Horror Podcast is, okay, it's a dive into a horror movie, but the more I think about it, me and my friend Danny, who we've known each other since school, we host it together. And so it's horror through the lens of friendship. And we have a laugh recording, and most of that stays in. Some of it doesn't make the edit because it's maybe not for everyone else's ears. But we have a great time prepping, chatting, reflecting, thinking about how those characters might make it to the credits, the better choices they could make, and actually considering what our chances might be. We often would have died, is the reality. We wouldn't have the heart to cave in that zombie child's head or anything like that. We'd just get eaten. So it's trying to look in a funny way at kind of horror movies and how we survive them. Clues in the name. Yeah, we're on Instagram, and that's about all we do, because we're old men and we can't be bothered with social media. So we do Instagram, we do an audio podcast, and that's all you're getting out of us. First of the month.
There we go. So that's it. The first of the month, everybody, make sure that you go and listen to it, of course, on Spotify, Apple, any podcast platform. And then, as well as that, as Leighton said, make sure that you go and follow them on Instagram. Please do. Leighton is another person. Whenever I do the show, I always want to do everything I can to bring on people that are very passionate about horror, passionate about what they want to talk about, and love to go deep diving breakdowns into these sort of movies. And of course, Leighton is one of those people. So if he's doing it on this show, of course he's doing it on his show with his mate. So go and listen to it at Surviving Horror Podcast, as I say, and go and enjoy it absolutely bloody everywhere. And also, please don't forget to rate and review. That is so important. I'm not just talking about my show or Leighton's show. Anybody that is making podcasts or YouTube channels that you enjoy, make sure you subscribe, rate and review at the highest you possibly can. It helps shows evolve, reach new audiences, and of course, talking about that. And in fact, Leighton is a big part of this. But of course, I can't end an episode without talking about Patreon. Patreon is the incredible platform that basically is there for you to show people how much you enjoy what they do. And it is incredible because it isn't just about showing that love for what people do. It's about building communities over there as well. And also, it is a massive motivator. Like, the fact that people will do that for Let's Talk Horror is insane to me, because it means that I'm doing something right, which is really nice for once, because I think I do everything wrong. So it's nice to know that I'm doing something that people really truly enjoy, and doing Patreon is like that extra step to make people go, shit, It's working. Something's working, and it means a lot. So, not once again, not just for Let's Talk Horror. I'm talking about anybody that you enjoy what the people are creating. They might have a Patreon. But yeah, Let's Talk Horror. We do have a Patreon, and of course, I always have to thank my honorary creepazoids. We've got Jamie, we've got Rob, we've got Kate, we've got Michael, and Leighton, because Leighton is one of my honorary creepazoids. And of course, thank you so much, Leighton. Obviously, it means the absolute world to me for everything that I just said, and you know that it does. I always say that doing this, and Leighton obviously knows as well, it's not easy doing this. And we are independent podcasters, YouTubers, creators. We have independent channels. We don't get paid for this. We don't have people helping with promo and marketing. It's just us. But the reason we do it is because we really, truly enjoy doing this. And of course, Patreon is a great way for you to show your love for anybody else that's doing the things that you love as well. So patreon.com, look for Let's Talk Horror channel, or anybody that you enjoy doing stuff. And you can become an honorary creepazoid. And one of the cool things is that I do the Creep's Choice episodes, which is essentially you get your very own podcast episode. I don't know where we're going to be in regards to like when this comes out, but Leighton finally picked one that was good. Every other movie that I've watched so far has been shit, and I talk about how shit they are. So if you want a contrast to this, then go. He always talks about movies that are good. Yeah, I do, because I want to talk about movies that are good. I do talk about movies that are shit over on Patreon, so you can get over there and do it that way. But yeah, Patreon's great. Rating, reviewing, subscribing on YouTube, all that sort of stuff. It truly helps evolve shows, channels, reach new audiences, and keeps us going and keeps us motivated. So keep on joining our journeys, mine, Leighton's, anybody else's. If you enjoy what anybody does, just help them along in that way as much as you can. But there we go. That's the episode. Leighton, thank you once again for coming on the show.
Yeah,
what the
thanks
bloody
so
hell
much.
are we going to do next?
Not Neil Marshall, that's for sure. Something good. But yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Oh no, thank you. It's a pleasure having you on. And yeah, we will get you back on, and we just have to have a good old think about what we do. I don't know whether we go down the route of another director, but then once again, it could be another 2-movie run, if that. God knows, who fucking knows. But what we do know is that The Descent is a fantastic movie. Neil Marshall fucking knocked it out of the park with this one. Set too much of a high bar for himself. And The Descent is fantastic. If you are somebody that's seen The Descent, which obviously, as I always say, when I do these episodes, I assume that you've seen the movie. I hope you have. But if you haven't, why the bloody hell not? It's a masterpiece. But if you have, like I said, why not recommend it to other people? Like your mum that doesn't like horror. See how she gets on with it. I don't know. It might be too much for her, but don't tell her that I recommended it though. Don't be like, oh no, it wasn't me. It was like this guy. I don't want any angry mums getting hold of me and said, what did you make me watch? But that I'm sure they'll enjoy it.
Blame me. Tell your mum that I recommended it to you. It's fine.
Yeah, blame Leighton. That's it. There we go. But thank you so much, Leighton, again for coming on. Thank you for all of you out there that continue to join me on my journey through horror with Let's Talk Horror. But until next time, stay creepy, fuckers.